Okay, let's do this. This is level 3, the final level, the boss fight. We've got an evil wizard, we've got a brand new map. We've had all of these levels, it's all leading up to this. Here we go. As you can see, I've already been busy. I've built this map, and it's actually a fully working level. I'll go ahead and play it now. You can see what we've done. We spawn in at the top here, we jump back down, and we've got a zombie that we've got to dot, and I've just died. Oh dear. See, it's intense, this level. Right, let's try that again. You come over, you've got to jump over the zombie, you've got to go over here, and then you've got the evil wizard. He's firing out these fire bolts, and if you get hit by one of them, you get knocked right back and you get killed. The only way to take out the evil wizard is to jump down here, and we go jump over to the left here, and we get this enchantment block. Touch the enchantment block, makes us all reflecting and chrome looking cool, and when he hits us now, it damages the wizard. And so we go back and forth. And when you hit for the third time, you take out the wizard, and huzzah, you have won. So how did we make all of this? Right, so if you haven't watched the previous episodes, you really need to go back and watch them, otherwise you're going to be a bit lost. So for starters, I've thrown up my map. I don't think you need to see that. You can go and build your own quite easily. Make sure you have an invisible box though, as just it'll help keep the character in, as always. So you'll notice when I go ahead and play here, we can't run off the map. The next thing I did is I copied over the teleports that we made from, I think, episode 5 it was. We did these teleport system into the next level. So I just copied that over here. So when you step on here, it teleports you here. It changes your spawn point, and it also changes the level GUI up here. So it's the same thing we did in the last video. And then I've copied over one of the zombies. Copied over the zombie, and I've plunked the zombie over here. And then I added in this wizard. So how did I do that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the evil wizard. I'll just get rid of him. Yeah, we don't care. We're going to delete it. And I'm going to delete this enchantment block. And then I'm going to remake it on camera. So the first thing if you want to add in a custom player, is I usually go on the plugins tab at the top here and click build rig. So this is what you do if you wanted to make a animation, but it's quite handy if you just want to generate a little Robloxian character. So on the R15 tag, I click block rig, and then this little guy generates in for us a little dummy character. Now we'll go inside here, make sure the humanoid root part is unanchored. It's anchored by default in there for some reason. And we'll rename the guy Evil Wizard. But he doesn't look like much of a wizard at the minute. So how about we give him a face? We'll look for evil face, you've already searched. And this one came up, I thought that one looked quite cool, so I gave him that face. And get rid of those default faces, and it looks like that. That's looking a little bit better. What else can we add? How about we add in some body colors? We don't want him to be the noob colors, so we can change them. We'll make these a sort of a grayish color. There we go, that's better. And we could give him some clothes, so we can click on it and then let's add in some pants. And I was using a package or pants called the Old School Wizard Robes. So if you go up to the top of the address bar here, and you can just copy and then paste that into the clothing item. When you say there's a property down here, it says pants template. If you click there, paste, press enter, and then there we go. We have our pants now loaded on it. These are called clothing by default, though normally it makes sense for these to be called pants, because you could have another item of, you could add in a shirt if you wanted, but we're not going to bother for now. Next thing, I quite like to add in a hat. Now I could get the hat from the store here. I could search for a wizard hat. But what I'd actually, we could do is we could use the command bar, which is down here. Now if you don't have the command bar visible, as always, you go to the View tab and you can enable and disable things from up here. Look, we can disable the Explore and Properties, but we'll turn them back on and make sure you have command bar enabled. And we can change pretty much anything from here, just like you would inside a script. So we're gonna type in this script, I've already used it earlier, which is game get service, and we use the insert service, call the function load asset, and then you can paste in any asset from the catalog. So in this case, I've got this old wizard hat. I'm going to click to copy the ID and then go back to the game, and then I can paste the ID in there, and then it would just be a matter of saying the parent of it, which we'll set to workspace. So if I press enter now, it might seem like nothing has happened, but if I look inside the workspace, you'll see I've got this model here. It's an unnamed model, and we can press F to go over to it, and that is the hat that we chose from the catalog. That's the one. So it puts it inside the model, and we can press Control X, cut it out of there, and Control Shift V, paste it into the evil wizard model. So we'll go back over there, and you see it now automatically puts it on top of his head. Perfect. So how about we move our wizard into place? I put him up here on the side of these spikes here, so the player can't actually access him. First thing we need to do is add in our firebolt. So we'll select our wizard and we'll move him into level 3, so he's inside of this model, and we'll add in a script into him. And in the script, we'll create a function. We'll call this firebolt, or create firebolt script might be more accurate. Create firebolt. Do lowercase c, uppercase f, and camel case like that. Create firebolt, and then inside this script we'll need to create it. So we'll say local firebolt equals instance.new, and we'll create a part in quotation marks, and then we can start giving it some properties. So we could say firebolt dot position equals, and then we'll base its position off the position of the humanoid root part, which is the center here. So let's create a variable for the wizard. Local wizard equals script.parent, and then we can say the firebolt position will be equal to the wizard, which is this model, and then its humanoid root part. So dot humanoid root part dot position, and then we don't want it to be the same position as that, so we want to add on an additional couple of studs. So we'll say plus vector 3, which is the size and position measurement, so 3-dimensional coordinate, and for the it has an x, a y, and a z value. So for the x we'll say -2 and then 0 and 0, because we don't want to change the height or the z value, only the x. So let's try just calling the create firebolt, and we'll just try and run that. And we've got an error. What's that? Oh, I'm still using the same problem as before. So it's vector3.new. New is the function, vector3 is just the class on its own. I don't know why I was doing that in the last video as well. So let's run that. And we also need to set a parent for it as well, for this new part we created. So we'll parent it to workspace, that'll do. And we'll run that. And we should get, we'll get a new part appears and then it just drops down. And that looks a bit rubbish. It doesn't look much like a firebolt, does it? So what I did earlier is I changed the firebolt.shape and I made that equal to ball. I changed the size, so we say firebolt.size equals, and that's a vector3 value as well, vector3.new, and we'll just make it 1 by 1 by 1. And then we'll also change the color while we're at it, firebolt.brickcolor equals, and we can say brickcolor.red. That'll do the job. Let's go ahead and try that then, see what that looks like. That looks a bit more like a firebolt, but it's not really much of a fire bolt. So if we want to add some flames, we can say local fire equals instance.new, and this time we can add in some fire. And we're not going to change any of the properties for this, so we can actually just set its parent all within the same function. The instance.new function actually takes two conditions. The first is just the name of it, and the second is an optional one where you can say where you want it to be the parent. So in this case, we can just say workspace. Sorry, not workspace. We want it to be firebolt, don't we? So firebolt. But if we'd wanted to, we could say workspace there. But we'll set it down below after we've set the other properties. So we've added some fire in now. What does that look like? That looks a bit more like a firebolt, doesn't it? Much better. So we're creating the spell perfectly fine, but we want it to be fired across the map. Well, in order to do that, we're going to use something called body force. So back into our script, we'll add another line. We'll say local force equals another instance we're going to create, instance.new, and this time we type body force, and we'll set force property of it will be equal to, and this is a vector3 value again, so we could set it to be, we want it to go left in the x direction, so this will be a negative value. We'll try -10, and then we need a bit of a y value, which is the vertical axis, or because we need to counteract gravity a little bit. So I'm going to set this to 72, and then the z axis, we're not bothered about that, so we just set that to 0. And then finally we need to give this force a parent, so we want it to be parented to the firebolt, so that is equal to firebolt, and we'll run that, and hopefully what we should see, and I've done the same thing again, haven't I? I've not typed .new, vector3.new, there we go, and we run that, and hopefully we should see, boom, it fires off. Now it's hitting into the wall there, which is a little bit annoying, so we could fix that by making the firebolt.canCollide equals false, so it won't be affected by physics in the same way. So if we try and run that, it'll go all the way through the wall, and it will actually keep going forever, which we might not want. Look, it goes all the way over here, which isn't really ideal. So it'd be nice if there was a way to get rid of it after a few seconds. Thankfully there's something called debris. So the local debris equals game get service debris, and then it's simply a matter of adding into our function debris colon add item, and it takes two parameters. This, the first is the item you want to add, and the second is the amount of time in seconds after which the item will be destroyed. So we can say firebolt, comma, second value, and we will allow it to be destroyed, let's say, after 4 seconds. That should be plenty. So if we go back now and we run, the firebolt will fire, and after 4 seconds, it will disappear. which actually lines up quite nicely with the wall there, doesn't it? Lines up perfectly and disappears. Nice one. So that's our firebolt sorted, but we haven't actually, well, it's only firing once for starters. We want it to keep firing. So what we could do is we could just add in a little while loop down here. We could say while, and we could set this to while true, but the problem is that after the wizard has been killed, it would still keep firing it. So we only want to fire the spell while the wizard is alive. So we're adding a condition that while the wizard dot humanoid dot health is greater than 0, so while it's still alive basically, do, and then we'll say wait, well actually we'll create the firebolt and then we'll wait 2 seconds and then we'll loop back round. It's inside the while loop, so it'll fire it again. So we can go ahead and test that, and it'll fire it, and there's 2 fired off at the start there, but then afterwards it fires it in nice pattern continuously. If you want to get rid of that one at the start, we could add an additional wait. I think it's a problem with the character loading in and the script running before everything's loaded. So if we add an additional wait of 2 seconds and then do the loop, then I think everything will flow much more nicely. Perfect. Now what do we need to do next? We need to add so these firebolts actually damages. At the minute, if we go ahead and test with our player, and one thing I should mention is I have changed the player setup. Do you remember our player setup script where we defined the respawn location at the start? Well, I've commented out the initial line, which sets it to the level 1 spawn, and I've just added in a condition for the level 3 spawn for now. So when I play the game, I can go straight into level 3 without having to go through the other levels just for testing. Now obviously it breaks my GUI up here, but that doesn't really matter as we're just testing it for now. So let's see, these it's really not that hard to avoid that zombie, and yet I keep walking into it. Right, so if we get hit by these and they're just going to go right through us, which isn't really very exciting, is it? So what we can do is we can add in to the script that we created inside the evil wizard. It might be a good time to rename the script rather than just leaving it script, which can get confusing. We can rename this wizard script, so that then we look up here along the top, we know exactly which script we're inside of. So the wizard script, we want to add a condition to give some damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new function now. I'm going to call this one local function spell landed. And we're going to call the spell landed function whenever it hits anything. So we can add this, might as well add down here. Below firebolt, we'll say firebolt dot using the touched event as we've used many times before, and then we'll connect it to the spell landed function. And inside the spell landed function, we want to check that it's hitting a humanoid first of all, because as we've seen, the firebolt comes along here and it hits the wall. We don't want to fire when it hits the wall, only when it hits our player. So we'll say if, and we need to add in the parameter. So we'll add in the hit parameter, which is connected to the touched event. So this sends whatever part's touching it. And we say if hit dot parent find first child humanoid in quotes, then we know it's a player, don't we? We'll create a variable for that, local character equals hit.parent. And then I'm also going to add in another parameter actually, which is the spell itself, or the firebolt even. So we want, and we can't do it all on one line like this anymore. So what we'll do is we'll say connect function, and then we can add in a line like this, end. So you might have seen this written this way. It's just another way of doing it. So we'll say the hit, because the touched event automatically sends this hit parameter, and then we wrap it inside what's known as an anonymous function because it hasn't actually got a name. And then we can say spell landed, and we use both the hit parameter and also the parameter of the firebolt itself. Have we done it in the right order? No, it's spell and hit there, so we'll swap them around. Otherwise, we would get very confused. Gonna make sure everything matches up. So hit and spell and hit and firebolt. Doesn't actually matter what they're called as such. Firebolt will just be referred to as spell now inside here. So we're also going to destroy the spell as soon as it hits the player, like we did with our coins as well. So we're just going to call spell destroy as soon as we notice the player. And then we want to damage the player. So we're going to say character dot humanoid dot health, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to take away 30% of their player's health. So we'll make the health equal to character.humanoid.max health divided by 3, and then we want to take that off whatever the value is. So we want the health to be equal to the current health minus a third of whatever the maximum is. So we can put this in brackets to make it all a little bit clearer. So if they have 100 health, then all we're going to do is we're going to take off 1/3 of that, which will be 33.333333, and hopefully, so it'll be a 3-hit kill. We can see what that looks like now. If we go back with our player, I'll try not to get killed by the zombie this time. Jump over the zombie and get hit by the bolt, and we've taken, yep, 33 damage. Get hit by it again, and a third time, and we've just kept a bit of health because we regenerated, but there we go, it's taken us out now. So those firebolts are doing some damage, but the wizard is looking a little bit boring, as they're just magically appearing in front of him. What it might be quite nice to have is some animations. So if you want to add in a custom animation, what you can do is go on the plugins tab, and you can click the animation editor, which is a plugin from Roblox themselves, and then you just need to select the humanoid, which we've just done, and then we can give a name. You get prompted to give a name for whatever clip, so we can call this cast spell. Click create, and then what we get is this little timeline down here, and also these prompts to rotate the part. So how this works is we have a timeline down here, so if we go to the next keyframe, and we can rotate the body backwards like this, and then the next one we could rotate it more, and then the next one we could start rotating it back again until it's fully in position on the final keyframe. And then if you click this little toggle looping and you click play, you will have the guy go back and forth like that, which is pretty ugly, to be honest, isn't it? But when you're done with your animation, you can click the dots again. You can click export, and then you can create a new animation, enter a name and some details for it, and then export it. Now, I'm not going to do that as I've already created this cast spell animation. So what I can do is I can get rid of this animation editor, and I'll add in the animation I made from earlier. So I'll add in below that wizard script the animation object, and then I'll go and get the animation ID. So you can find this by going to the create tab, And then on the My Creations, if you scroll down and you find animations, and then you'll see I've got these 2 animations here. So we select cast spell, whatever you called it, go back up to its URL again and copy the ID. And we go back to our game. And then we can paste the animation ID into the animation ID field just like that. Press enter. And there we have it, the ID now. So let's go ahead and use this animation. The first thing we need to do, if you remember from our zombie script, is we need to load the animation. So we create a variable local spell animation equals, and it'd be wizard.humanoid function load animation, and then we give the ID, or in this case the animation object, which we have down here, which is script.animation, like so. And then it's just a case of playing the spell animation. So if we go down to our loop here, and as we create the fireball each time, we can add in spell animation : play, open close brackets, and hopefully if we go back now and we run the game, he will fire the animation every time he fires the bolt. Super. Okay, so that's our firebolt down. We should probably put a cut in here, as this video has been quite long already. There is a lot to cover for this boss scene, but we are getting there. We have got our zombie, we've got our maps, we've got our spikes. We've got our firebolt that does damage. The only thing we need to add is some animations to fling ourselves when we get hit. I think that'd be quite nice. And we need to add that enchantment block I showed you earlier. We'll do that in the next video. But for now, keep watching and I'll get the next video up for you tomorrow.